Hello, welcome to today's episode, Your 4 Go-To Questions as a Manager. This is part of the cello series, so I will be describing this using the cello as a base. I have been playing cello for 3 months, so you will be hearing beautiful sounds from the cello, but mostly because of the cello. Here's the reason that I wanted to do this episode today on your 4 go-to questions as a manager. A lot of times when you're managing, whether it's a project, let's say you might not even have direct responsibility for someone, but you're managing a project that some people are on. When you're managing a project, or if you are the manager and you have a team, a lot of times you almost feel stuck. How can you help somebody? What are ways that you can help somebody and quickly? So using the analogy of what I've been learning in terms of cello, let me introduce 4 possible questions to you. Now here was my cello issue that I was working on in terms of becoming a cello player that my teacher told me I really needed to work on. And because of that, I realized that there are 4 go-to manager questions. So here's the thing with cello. With cello, you need to play each string and you actually have to be able to hear that string. So let me give you an example. That's moving. Oh, you can't see. Hold on, I'll back up. So switching from one to another. I just switched from, that's called A string to D string. But as I switch those strings, it's like the way my teacher explains it, it's like different tracks of a highway. So you actually need to switch lanes. You need to make that change. And similarly to that, managers might, any manager, when I'm in a manager role, when you're in a parent role at home, you might have a go-to that you resolve. You might have even resolved to start doing less of your go-to, but it's your instinct at this point. So here are 4 options for you of what you can do. If you think about a manager, what are some of the questions that a manager might want to ask the people that are on his or her team or that are on the project? Well, here's one. And I'm doing this in the context of switching tracks. And as a manager, you may switch tracks with your questions. The first one you might ask is, what's on your mind? You might ask, what's on your mind? Because that is a super open-ended question. In fact, I've done an episode on how sometimes one of the best coaching questions is, how are you? And then you listen. So one of the first things you can ask is, what's on your mind? And then as you're switching tracks, you may ask, what is already working well? This is one of our favorite questions in coaching and in positive psychology. What is already working well? What is working well on the project that you're on? What is working well with your team? This just lets possibilities of the future come out, because if something's working well, you can do more of it and double down on that. The next question that you can ask as a manager is, and you'll hear this, it's a lower note, so that's why it made me think of support. What do you need support on? What do you need support on? And what this means is resources or other ways, or maybe even brainstorming, but what do you need help with? It's a really valuable question because sometimes we think everybody's doing fine, and sometimes they are, but it's so open-ended that it prompts people that if they need support, they'll come to you. And the last of your 4 go-to questions as a manager is, what do you see for the future? And this comes a lot from the field of appreciative inquiry, which is a part of this whole world related to positive psychology. And it's a little bit about you as a manager and members of the team getting aligned on where the project is moving towards. When you can see a future and imagine it in a way that's concrete and detailed, everyone feels a little more alive. They know what they're moving towards. I'm not speaking about this in terms of having a big vision and being a visionary thinker. I'm talking about this actually more concretely. What is the specific future that we're building? So let me show you all of these one more time. And I'm open for any kind of questions on why these may be good questions for a manager to be asking. And as you know, I came to this from really being deliberate. And I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to turn this caption off. This is what I should not play when I'm playing the cello. Hear how that's two strings? That's great if that's actually written in the music. But if it's not, you actually want to do the distinction of. You need to make the track switch. So here they are one last time. What's on your mind? What is already working well? What do you need support on? What do you see for the future? Thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure to be with you today.